I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm so pleased to be with you. Thank you for allowing me to join you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. I appreciate it. Ready is good. So if you're just jumping on, I just asked everybody to unmute yourself. Just give 1 or 2 words about how you're feeling tonight, and then whether or not you have read the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, just a yes or a no. We're just doing a quick little check-in before we get started.
Hey, it's Casey. Yes, I have read it, and 1 word of how I'm feeling tonight is allowing.
Allowing. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling good. I feel great. I feel inspired and happy, and I feel accomplished. And I have listened to parts of that book, but I have not read it like I should have.
Thank you, Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think LaDonna and Aljanette, and then there's one other person that might be on the phone.
I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I feel awesome today. I haven't read the book. I never even heard of that book before, but I'll write it down. Anyway, so I just delivered food out to some drill sergeants who are doing some basic training stuff. And I am just so thankful for my electricity and hot water and shower. And I felt so bad for them, you know, out there, and it's freezing and it's supposed to rain today at Fort Jackson. So I just came home like so grateful and thankful for everything in my house. Yeah.
Amazing. Grateful is so good. And have you read this book, The Science of Getting Rich?
No, never heard of it.
Okay. Okay.
I guess I'll go next. The notorious hiding behind the camera. Anyway, so I will honestly say today I'm very tired, but I'm very thankful and blessed that I have isogenics in my life. And but the reason I'm tired and I'm dealing with a lot of hormonal issues right now. Chris, you kind of know where I've been with that. So I had to find a new doctor. So I'm just dealing with some issues with my hormones bottoming out right now. So I'm pretty fatigued, but I'm doing good. So life is good. And no, I haven't read the book. So it's another one I will add to my list.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. We'll definitely, both with you and Mary, keeping you guys in our thoughts and prayers. And I think there's one more person. Is there a 334 phone number that wants to share? Okay. No. All right. James is also feeling like he's got 2 big yellow guns going on tonight in the chat. I love it. All right, cool. Okay, so we're already recording. I already kind of snuck that in on you guys. So welcome to LiveFULLy. Tonight, I want to talk about the science of getting fit. So I'll just give you a little bit of background, and then I did jot down some notes on some slides just to kind of help myself so that I don't have to be flipping through the book to different places. But there's some different covers out there if you go to buy the book or if you're downloading it on Audible. I have this one, and it's, obviously the title is The Science of Getting Rich. And so this book is meant to be about wealth and money. And it's, although he does quote scripture throughout the book from the Bible, yes, Casey, we're going to get to how many times you told me to read this book. It's changing my life too. So he does quote scripture throughout the book, which we're not going to get into tonight, but the book is primarily based on scientific laws. So you guys might have heard of things called universal laws that are basically just kind of like the law of attraction most of you have heard of, right? Like your thoughts kind of attract what your life becomes. He talks about the law of gratitude, which we're going to get into a little bit. And so what he says in the very beginning, and actually I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen right now and get right into it. All right, can everybody see my screen? Yeah. Let me make it a little bit bigger. That's better. Okay. So 1 second while I move this thing out of the way. Okay, so what he says, and you guys, this is just, it's one author, it's one book, and you can take it or leave it. I can tell you for me, the application of what he writes in this book is not only about money, but it can be applied to anything in life. And so as I was reading it last night, I've had this book, you know, like Alginette, you're like, okay, I'll add it to my list. And it's like, that's me. It's like, I've got 100 books that's on my list as like the next one I'm going to read, right? And this one has been, I've had it on Audible. I've heard excerpts spoken by people like Dave MacArthur, by Casey at different retreats. You know, Casey has suggested and even, you know, like almost directed, like you need to read that book. And so it's been on my list for a long time. And to be completely open and honest and transparent, one of the things that I'm working on this year is to really break through some like self-imposed money limitations. And I know that from reading this book, I couldn't help but think about the limitations that I had put on myself for 20 years when I was overeating and didn't think that I, you know, deserved to be in good health. And so as I go through this, again, you guys, like, you're free to, we're going to have a group discussion about after I go through the bullets and kind of talk about what he says and see how you feel about it. But for me, I just really noticed a symmetry between eating and my health, as well as how he relates these laws to money. So in the preface of the book, he just lays it right out there, plain as day, that every man or woman who does this will, sorry, I just can't find my cursor when I'm in this view. Let me move it down. All right. Go away. Okay. Every man or woman who does this will certainly get rich. And I just put in parentheses, fit. And you can actually replace any word in there. If it's not about money, if it's not about health, if there's something else in your life that you want to apply these principles to, he's basically saying that for the science herein, applied is an exact science and failure is impossible. So I started thinking about how much we deal with conversations, both with ourselves and with people that we're coaching in this business, about failure. You know, you ask someone on a scale of 1 to 10 when you're getting ready to sign up, you know, where are you as far as ready to make a change? And I hear people say a lot that, you know, I'm just maybe like an 8. And it's like, well, what has you from, you know, being a 10, being ready to go? And it's like, I've just started and stopped so many times. And it's that fear of failure. And so this really stuck out to me in the preface, because he's like, failure is impossible. Like, this is an exact, if you follow this exact thing that's in this book. So I'm totally, you know, my antennas are up. I'm like, okay, you're saying that, you know, failure is impossible. Like, what is he getting ready to say? And so he talks about there's 3 primary motives for which we live. We live for our body, we live for our mind, and we live for our soul. And so he writes that no man can really be happy can be really happy or satisfied unless his body is living fully in every function, and unless the same is true of his mind and his soul. So, of course, when I saw living fully, just the sound of the words from having this group just set me off. And I'm like, oh, like live fully. Like, no, nobody can be really happy or satisfied unless your body is living fully in every function. And so I started applying this to myself and thinking about going from being 100 pounds overweight to losing that 100 pounds, to gaining half of it back, to now training for the IsaBody Challenge, which is a whole nother level of commitment. But having your body, like, what does that mean for your body to live fully in every function? And then, of course, you can apply that to, your mind. So what things we're thinking, as well as our soul, how are we developing? So that's kind of, how he gets started out. The other things that I wanted to mention is talks about thought. So we a million times on these calls have talked about how, your thoughts become your life, how important it is to guard our thoughts and our self-talk, to ourselves. And so here are a few things that he wrote. And I don't know how to shrink this thing. I'm just gonna move it up. Sorry for the delay, guys. It's like I can't, when I have the gallery, it covers up the slide and I can't read it. Okay. So a man's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. And so when it comes to this journey of health and, really making that decision to move forward with, enough with the eating according to, like I'm a stress eater or I'm just a compulsive overeater, all of these reasons originate with what we're thinking about it. So I put in parentheses here, like, do you think about reaching the desired outcome or how not to fail? And so often, it's tricky. I feel like it's almost subliminal sometimes that we decide we're going to make this change. And it's so subtle the way that our thoughts can the normal thoughts or the thoughts that we've had for years and years and years can creep back in. And on last week's call, we talked about a conversation that I had with Morgan about the IsaBody Challenge and also with Casey and how it's like, oh, do I really want this or do I not? And it was just, it's like deception, right? It's a way for your old thoughts to kind of creep back in and keep you from moving forward of decision that you've made. And then he goes on to say, this is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. So here's where I thought, if any of you guys have followed Dave MacArthur, if you listen to his podcast, he talks about, holding your vision with you all the time, that you've got to hold that with you, because we're obviously, when we're creating thoughts about making a change that is something new, we're still kind of living in, it's like I can put it out there and say, I'm in the best shape of my life. But if the right now reality is that I'm 60 pounds overweight, then that truth that I've already decided, I'm already hitting this goal, it's already in progress, it's hard to hold that truth when it's contrary to what's going on around us. So this was just a thought that I wanted, each of you to to think about, as you apply in your life, as you're coaching other people. It's really important to make sure that the clarity of our thoughts are solid, even though what's happening around us might not look like that right now, right? Like, so we've already put that thought out there and we've decided that it's going to happen. The next thing that he talks about is the nature of everything in the world, in the universe, is to grow and to evolve and to become. So we're always in this constant state of like becoming better. And he says that every living thing must continually seek the enlargement of its life, because its life in the mere act of living must increase itself. And so again, you know, if we relate it back to money, which is, you know, is really what the book is focused on, we all have a right to be rich. And that's what he's talking about in the science of getting rich, is that is actually what God / the universe wants for all of us. So any idea, you know, that we can't have something is basically us imposing a limitation on ourselves. So I'm reading it, you know, kind of thinking about really pushing through like a limitation that I've had about money. It stems from, you know, when I grew up and how my parents felt about money and, you know, deservingness of money and success. And I'm just being open and real with you guys, that, you know, I really started thinking about, you know, if my belief is truly in line or in alignment with what he's saying, is that it's our right to have everything that we want, then the only reason why I don't have it is because I'm creating thoughts around that thing that's limiting myself. So, and he talks in this book too, that it's not about one person being like better than the other, or you can have the exact same person with the same amount of intelligence and one actually be wealthy and one not. And it's all just because of the way that they act in their thinking. And so it's just really a matter of mastering that. And so we talk about in Isogenics all the time. It's like we hear these buzz phrases, right? Like health is our greatest wealth. And if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. But the truth that's in this just took on so much more power after I read this, that we should be continually seeking the enlargement of the way that we live through our health, to be like our most, you know, live our life to the fullest. That's what this is all about, and this is exactly what he's saying. And at the bottom, that last bullet, get rid of the idea that God wants you to sacrifice yourself for others and you can secure his favor by doing so. God requires nothing of the kind. Now, this stuff in purple, you guys, is not me. This is Wallace Wattles. Okay. And I put a little criticism in there. This is something that I have done a lot in my life, is thinking that it can happen for them, but it can't happen for me. Or let me scale back that goal a little bit, or even a vision to make it a little bit more realistic, or kind of coming up with like a good enough result or an outcome. So rather than having the outcome, the exact outcome that I really, really want more than anything, that's like shoot for the moon, right? Or like for the stars. It's this acceptance or this limitation of, oh, well, I can, you know, do something for someone else that I wouldn't necessarily do for me. Or it makes sense to me that someone else might get rich or have this amazing health or amazing eating habits, but that's probably not going to happen for me. And so Wallace Wattles is really, you know, he's just so black and white about like, that is not a God thought. That is not a God desire, you know, for us to be like limiting ourselves in any kind of a way. And so, and this is the last slide, and then I want to open it up for some discussion. He writes that God is trying to live and do and enjoy things through humanity. So my criticism here is like, all the time when I see like beauty in nature or something that just blows my mind, like Casey posted this picture of a sunset of like the color differences between like the sky and the water, like when you're on the beach, or anything that just wows you that I'm like, there's like God showing off. But he wants to show off through us. And being rich in money, wealth, is one way, because you can have all things. And Casey, if you're able and willing, and I know you'll be able to just roll it right off your tongue, part of your mantra or your, your mission statement in life talks about the free and unrestricted use of all things. And I didn't really know what that was, but that actually came from here. And in order to do that, he talks about that you have to have money to be able to enjoy all that life has to offer, right? To make use, the free and unrestricted use of all things, that it takes money to do that. But God also wants us to experience that. And when it comes to our health and the way that we're taking care of our bodies or not taking care of our bodies, this has to become part of our conversation with the people that we're talking to about signing up. I mean, we all know, we've all had an amazing product story with Isagenix, but it's like, this is part of the way that God shows off, so to speak, when we live in the healthiest, fullest way that we possibly can. So basically, I kind of, you're flipping through the book and you're like, okay, let's get down to it. What is the formula? What does it take in order to get rich, get fixed, get fit? What's the secret sauce? And so the first thing is having that clear vision and visualizing, again, exactly what you want. Not just, if I could just lose 20 pounds, I probably have 40, but if I could just lose 20. No, we've got to lose that mentality of having just enough or going for what's good enough. And so I just wrote, go for it. My coach in volleyball used to say, go big or go home. It's gotta go for the gold. But having that clear vision is key, and it takes time to do that. If you haven't sat down to do that with your health, anybody that you talk to that is going to be signing up and enrolling with Isagenix, that's going to start a new health journey, has to have that clear vision of what is the outcome that I'm trying to get to, and go big. Go for it. If it's to win the IsaBody challenge, not just to get, the $200, then go for that. Go make it as big as you possibly can. Because that's what God wants for us. Anything else, Wallace Wattles actually calls it a sin to do anything else but go for as much as we can get when it comes to everything, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to our health. So again, back to the three things: mind, body, and soul. We should be striving to live for as big as we can in those areas. So the second thing is faith and belief that it's already happened. So how do you coach somebody? First, we sit down. Great, we're getting ready to get started on this health journey. Let's create the vision. What is it going to be? Now we're ready to believe that it's already done. You've made the decision. And so now the thoughts have to follow. And that can come in the way of writing out affirmations, declarations that are very similar to affirmations. We talk about vision boarding, putting it right up in front of your face, daydreaming, and I put make-believe conversations. But think about how kids Lindsay was just telling me the other day about how her daughter, she's like, it's amazing the imagination that she has, where she can just go on and on about, you know, a pretend person that's right there and be like, see, Mom? And Lindsay is like, well, I just have to go along with it. Like, yep, I see her. And she like sees the person, like literally sees that. And I think that we have so much to learn from that, from kids, and how they're able to do that make-believe of situations that you have to be able to see yourself in that new body. You have to be able to have those thoughts, like create the thoughts of eating 2 shakes a day, of eating healthy meals, and how amazing it feels to do that. You have to see yourself jumping on the scale and that scale number going down. All of these things have to be just as real as like a playmate, a secret, you know, like playmate to a kid. Like it has to be the same. And then the third thing he talks about is gratitude. So the law of gratitude, if you guys haven't studied it, is the principle that every action and reaction are equal and in opposite directions. So it is impossible that if you put something out there in the way of gratitude that you're not going to receive it back. Now, there's no law that says it's going to come back the way that you decide you want to see it, right? And there's also no law that talks about like in your time. So if you want to see a direct result tomorrow, it may not happen tomorrow. But the law of gratitude is that when we're grateful for everything, for these outcomes that we've put out there, we have a clear vision, we've got faith and belief that it's already happened, and then we're grateful that that has actually been brought to our lives, then it has to come. Like that, it's the law. It's a universal law. So the last 2 things I want to mention is that he talks about the frequency of holding these thoughts and outcomes is going to help you manifest wealth faster. So you're going to get rich faster the more often you have those thoughts about being rich. And so when you see somebody, you know, you see like Casey's house, like she's got stuff all over the place, Morgan's house posted all over the place. Why? Because the more times you see it, the more times you think it, the faster it's going to manifest. So my criticism is I'm a sometimey, I released that. I used to be a sometimey person. And so it's like, how often do I think about, or do I look at my vision boards and think those thoughts and really feel and know that they've happened, right? Like going from sometimey to like multiple times a day. And then the last thing is consistency. So holding those thoughts, my criticism is like not being wishy-washy, right? Like, so the universe loves for you to know what you want and hold to it. If you're like, well, yesterday I said that I wanted to be 2-star, but today I think I'm going to go maybe 1 stars, but like the universe, God doesn't know what to do with that. It's like, look, you can have it all. You can have whatever you want, but you've got to solidify on something. It's got to be clear cut in your mind, and you've got to hold to it. So it's important to take that time and really focus on what it is. Exactly, right? And then the last thing that I mentioned here is he writes, the very best thing that you can do for the whole world is to make the most of yourself. And so when we're in our own lives, when we're, come back to you guys, this Valerie gallery view, for yourselves, for people that you guys are coaching, in this business, you know, the most important thing that you can do is just to be the best version of yourself. And we say that stuff all the time about our health and the way that we eat. But if that's the case, then I feel really strongly that we have to help people see how critical it is to be solid in creating the vision, the outcomes, start moving in that direction, that it's already happened, it's already done, it is going to come to fruition as they're getting started. So I think most of the people on the call said they have not read this book. So if you, I mean, it's an amazing book, and I just told Casey today, I'm like, I really should have done this a long time ago. But the time has come. And so I want to open it up for discussion. Casey, if you're on and available, like, I wanted you to give a little quick snippet about the free and unrestricted use of all things, and why that's a part of your vision, and like what that means to you with regard to, you know, having whatever you want. And then I want to open it up to the rest of the group and just get your thoughts on what do you think about what Wallace Wattles has to say about everything that we deserve to have, and how our thoughts create our destiny, our life.
Yeah, you read it exactly when you're meant to read it. That's when it shows up in everybody's hands.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that book, I remember I read it on a plane ride back. I just kind of got really deeply exposed to personal development. And that was the book that I took off of Lenny Evans out of his library. And it was written to Lenny, if you guys, I think everyone's here in Isogenics, from Dave MacArthur actually gave it back to Lenny, because Lenny gave it to him. And so it was like Dave MacArthur had written in there just about, like, you know, next level. And it also included, he's written some other books. It's The Science of Being Great and The Science of Being Well. And so those were two. So it was like this try one. And it just made sense. It made sense to, you know, be anything, to set your goal to anything less than what you're capable of. And if we're all like children of God and we have these infinite possibilities within us, to do anything less is sinful. And, you know, associating it with money, for me, it was like, I did have some, Jennifer and I were talking about my first event, like, where I was like, I just really wanted to help people. It's not about the money. Money is the root of all evil. You know, and it's like, I had this block with money, but then reading that book, it was like, what are you talking about? Like, no, like, you're a creator, like, you can learn how to bring things into your life. And you know, then reading his book, The Science of Being Well, that really tied in so much of, you know, kind of how you're describing it too. I mean, these, you know, our bodies are temples, right? It's God's temple. This is where our higher self, this is where our spirit self dwells, you know, within us. I mean, you think about, you know, a body is just a body, but it's our life force. It's our spirit that's inside of our body that actually gives us life. And so when you think about that, this is what's carrying us around in this world, like, why would we not use the free and unrestricted use of all things to live our healthiest bodies? And how blessed are we all that we have found, you know, nutrition like Isogenics that makes it so easy, and it's putting what's really been, you know, robbed out of a lot of food that we're putting back into our bodies. You know, anybody that makes that decision, anybody to move your body, to stretch your body, just that gratitude for your body. You know, LaDonna, how you opened up the call today, you know, just about how grateful you are for your house. How grateful are you for this house? You know, how grateful are you for this temple? Like, if you can walk, if you can move, if you can breathe, if you can feel, if you can, you know, have pleasures. I mean, think about, you know, pleasures of like relationships, right? Like, just to be able to experience just such a gift of a human body. Why wouldn't I want to do everything I can for it to have everything that it needs to live its life to the best? Because I can tell you, you know, I've had money and been struggling with my health before, and there's an imbalance, you know, with that. So it really is about having it all. You know, it's like, choose both. You don't have to choose wealth, or you don't have to choose health. Like, you can have all of it. And that book of just the free and unrestricted use of all things, it was like, whatever I need, I can have, because I have infinite possibility access, because I am a child of God and I'm connected to God, and that's period. And to accept anything less, I'm not going to. And so that was just a really big shift for me. And that's when everything really started to compound in my life. And just my focus changed on really what it is that I was focusing on. So yeah, I think it's just a magnificent book. I love that book. I love Wallace Wattles. I'm reading the book Think and Grow Rich right now, and there's Wallace Wattle quotes throughout the whole book. So it's just a phenomenal read. And health is wealth, as we always say. They're all saying that, but I mean it's so true. So yeah, just anything that we can do to shift our mindset, to shift our belief, to know that there's nothing that's keeping us from being healthy except our own thoughts and those decisions and things that we're making. So yeah, it really all goes together. It's all kind of the same message, different way. But love that book, and so excited you're reading it and loving it.
Thank you. Yeah, and you guys, one thing I want to mention too, I just remember when I was just getting started on my personal development journey, I told you guys, like when Casey would say, like, I have the free and unrestricted use of all things. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, how can you have the use of all things? Like, what does that even mean? And I think it's important, it might be a new concept for people, right? Like when they're getting started and you're dealing with, I've been working on personal development for a couple of years, and I'm just now getting around to this and having these ahas, like, oh my God, I can have everything. Like, it's a progression. But to be able to recommend books like this and resources to people to kind of let the seed, get planted, again, it'll catch on and grow whenever it's meant to. But just to really encourage people that, last week I said, if the products work when I work, right? Like it's not when I use the products, they work. When I don't, they don't. And we know, like, that, it's such a blessing. Like, talk about gratitude, like, to know that it's there. Like, Isogenics works as long as I'm working it, as long as I'm doing it. So it's just a matter of me deciding and making that decision that in my thoughts, like, I'm committed. And why am I committed? Last week, we talked about our why. Who else wants to share a little bit about your thoughts? Or maybe you've read this book or maybe not, but I'd like to hear from some of you other guys on the phone.
Hi. So I didn't read the book. Casey, I remember her telling me about it like a long, long time ago. And of course, like, my belief and stories I told myself was, I don't need these books. And, she was all doing all this personal development, but I was hanging out with her. And so I did start doing some books, and I was getting, like you said, Chris, just being around her and listening to certain things. And so you start hearing things. And, I look back to, why was I stuck for 3.5 years doing a little of the products and a lot of eating? And it was because of the stories and the patterns that I was like, the patterns that I had and the stories that I was telling myself. If you say a cleanse day is too hard, well, then a cleanse day is too hard. If you say I can't exercise because I'm too well, then you can't exercise, And so I had all these stories that I would tell myself. And it's interesting because they were things that I didn't want in my life, but they were stories that I kept telling myself. And it brings me kind of back to how I kind of got out of it. Like when I started on the products, that I got serious in March after that incident with my son and people calling me fat at school, it was like I woke up the next day and I was just going to do what it took. I just wanted to be in a healthy body. And so every day I got up, and my intent and what I was putting into the universe is, today I'm going to be healthy. And so my actions followed. I was doing shakes, I was walking, I was starting to be healthy. And then that ankle incident happened. I fall and I have an ankle injury a month into getting healthy. And so it's like, am I going to allow that to be a pattern and a story to come back? Or am I going to change it and tell myself a different story? This is an opportunity. Now you have the chance to change the story. You can still eat healthy with a bum ankle. And so I did that. And so I overcame that. And so every day when I get up, whether it's a great day or a bad day, I mean, you really just have to listen to how you're talking to yourself, because whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And so it's just really like, when I really look at when all the change happened for me, the Isagenix products are amazing. Like you said, Chris, they're going to work if you work. But what wasn't working for me and what doesn't work for so many of us is our mindset and the things that we've been doing for so long. And so when you really start changing the stories and changing how you approach each day, it gets easier to, you know, follow the system and to believe in yourself. And then the more that you can pick up pieces from yourself that were broken for so long and put yourself back together, the easier it is that it has been for me to continue on. So, you know, this is right on time for sure. And his book, I think it ties into a lot of other books. I'm going to definitely have to go back and read it, but just got to really guard what I found, guard what we're saying, guard what we're looking at, what you're listening to, so that you make sure that it's aligning with what you're saying that you want.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. You know, you brought up that, you know, that thing about, number one, clarity. So like, what do you want? That has to be really, really clear, because otherwise that deception will kick you right back out of that goal so fast, like it'll make your head spin, because your mind needs a target. So being clear on what it is, if it's 60 pounds, like let it be 60. Don't go for the 40 or 50, or I'm just going to see how this goes. It's got to be solid. This is what's going to happen. And the other thing, you know, that you talked about too, that I think about is the frequency. Like, I'm the kind of girl that sometimes I don't get it on the first go round. Like, you need to tell me twice or 3 times or 4, you know, and like eventually I'm going to be like, okay. But, you know, for me, that's why there's stuff all over my house, is because the more times I see it, the more likely I'm going to be to really like, I don't even know, like embodying what I want. So once I'm clear, you've got to look at it again and again. You've got to say it again and again. You've got to have those make-believe conversations again and again. Right? Like, not just once, but it has to be that. And Morgan, you and I did that the other night. We're like, yeah, remember that time that I actually thought that I didn't want to win the Ice of Body Challenge? Like, that was so hilarious. You know, it's like, oh my God, that was so funny. Because like, it's like, let's just pretend that never even happened, because it's a thought that needs to like go. It needs to get out of our mind. And so that frequency is really important, because it just keeps driving it. It keeps driving it in as a reality that it has already happened. So who else? We've got a little over 10 minutes.
It's Mary here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I've been listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the way that he talks about the quantum field, that all potential exists, and it exists in a wave format. And the way that we manifest that is with our fixed and unwavering focus, that very finely tuned, I'm going to go out there and get that focus that causes that wave to collapse from a wave into a particle. So things come from the unseen into the visible world. And that's kind of how I'm looking at all potential, all possibilities really do exist within the infinite. And it's the power, the focus, the intention, the ardent, honest sincerity of what we're going to pull forth by virtue of our focus that brings that to us in the physical. So this call is perfect for me. This book sounds beautiful to me. The free and unrestricted use of anything and everything. Of course, we have access to that. And there's so many different tools and resources for how we can bring that to bear. But obviously, having it in front of your face, holding it in mind, the power of belief, the focused draw of our ardent, honest, authentic interest is going to bring those things to bear. And I love you guys. I love what you've shared, Morgan. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you shared about story. And story is just the stuff that we wrap ourselves in that has nothing to do with reality. And we don't get through that or let go of that until we truly have that piercing, I'm ready moment where we're ready to surrender the story and give up and go after what we've set our heart on and what we've set our aim on. And thank you for letting me share. Thank you. I'm so excited and I'm just so delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yay, amazing. That reminds me, I'm going to have to go back and I have seen a lot of things from Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I haven't really dug into his work. And so maybe that's coming up like 2 weeks in a row. It came up on last week's call as well from Catherine, who is dialing in from Australia. So yeah, maybe that's a cue that I go ahead.
I will send you a note. He has a nuts and bolts scientific step-by-step explanation from neurotransmitters in the brain and the uptake and the signaling molecules that make there be a perfect match between mind and body so that what we think really does become what we feel. And he's just got such a beautiful way of marrying science and religion and explaining it in a way that, for me, makes this work accessible. So sorry to yammer so much, you guys.
No, I think it's amazing. And I'm super excited to check more of his stuff out. I mean, he was also featured in that movie. If you guys saw The Secret, he's actually one of the people in that movie that speaks as well. So yeah, he's been doing this stuff a long time. But I just, oh my goodness, there's so much goodness in this book that can be applied, not just to building wealth, but just building ourselves as like the biggest, baddest version of ourselves, because anything else, like Casey said, where she, and I mean, Wallace Waddle says it, it's like anything else is a sin. Like, why would you go for anything smaller when like God wants to show off like through creation in general, and we're part of that. I mean, we see it in nature, but we're not able to see it in ourselves. And to me, it was just like, man, like, what is the point of having, all these limitations on myself when that's like, what is the point of that? And so I think, being able to help other people see that same thing when they're getting started on a new health journey is so key. It's so critical. To really get clear on like, what is that outcome that's like the biggest, baddest version. And it might take a while to get there, and some conversations and thinking and discussions and praying and, whatever it is that helps you get to that. But just to know that as far as God and the universe is concerned, like there is no favoritism. There is no, you deserve less than anybody else. That is all something that we've created in our minds that doesn't serve us, that just kind of helps keep us down. Anybody else want to share about anything that you're going through, anything that you've heard tonight that strikes a chord? Anybody? Okay. No? All right, guys. Well, that is really all that I wanted to share tonight. And so if you haven't read the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, you know, you can apply it to anything. Like I said, it stuck out to me as far as my eating, my health, you know, challenging myself to get the healthiest body that I could have. I've never done it before. I mean, I'm 47 years old and I've never really challenged my own body to be as fit as it can possibly be. And so it started with, you know, losing 100 pounds and then gaining weight back and then losing that weight and then, you know, trying to get into healthy habits. But once you put that vision out there, that outcome of like, what is it that you really, really want that's unlimited, right? Like take all the limitations out of there. You can have anything that you want. And these products, you know, we all know that with Isogenics, when you use the products, they work. And so it's just going to help. Like if you've got the mindset, the thoughts going, and you actually have the nutrition that's going into your body, that's doing the right things on the inside, you know, for your physical body. And then you're nurturing your mind with positive thoughts and then nurturing your soul in whatever way you do that. That's different for everybody. That's complete. Those are the three things that Wallace talks about that we live for. We are here to live for our mind, our body, and our soul. And so, you know, just keep that in mind, and hopefully this will inspire you yourself to just be the grandest version of yourself as far as, you know, being in a healthy body, the healthiest body you can be in. And will also help you to inspire other people that are getting started to do this along with you and say, hey, like, this is my personal goal, but you know, whatever yours is, like, let's try this stuff out. Like, let's set a vision that is the biggest one that we can come up with, and like get really, really clear on it. And then let's create affirmations or a vision board, or let's do it over and over so that it gets really solidified. And then let's have that faith and belief and gratitude that it's already come to us. It's already happened. And we're so grateful for that, because that's the universe. God has no choice but to give it back to us. When whatever we're putting out is going to all come back. So I'm going to give one last opportunity for anybody to say something before we close. If anybody has anything on their minds. Thanks, Jason. Look up again, make sure that, yeah. This is not, James, this is like an old cover. And so, but I will, the image that's actually in the post of the book that I used for this Zoom tonight, I think is like the new, probably like a newer version of the book. So, all right. Thank you guys for all jumping on. I know we have a Health in Action Have It All opportunity call in a few minutes. And so I appreciate you showing up, and I hope that you all got a little tidbit of inspiration tonight, and rock the rest of your week. We will see you next Monday. Have a good night, guys.